I want to know a little bit about your background because you have a very interesting background and degree. I want to know like the things that really shaped you and helped you become who you are and really drove you to this industry.
Cool. I'll try to keep it short. So I come from a very small town in India, south of India. Did my schooling there, and luckily I was fortunate to have education in English. So that's how I could speak English. And the town where I come from, there's not a lot of access to external world. So the only way we could learn about things is books or magazines or talking to people, right? And when I was very young, I was super curious about different things. And that's when I jumped into coding. So I learned programming early on in a very small institute there. And started learning about electronics and many other things. So generally, I was curious about many things. And in doing so, I also bumped into astrophysics. So early on, I was like super interested in astrophysics. I was trying to learn more, build new theories then with whatever limited knowledge that I had. And when I had to decide on what I want to learn, pursue as my for university, I knew how to code, and electronics I thought it wasn't a big deal because everybody were doing electronics. Mechanical engineering wasn't so attractive either, and aerospace was something that was just coming up in India, right? So there was a lot of research on the space side, but aeronautical engineering as such was just coming up, and there were very few graduating out of university, and I found that as a challenging topic to learn. Right. So the reason why I picked that is because it was completely alien to me. I mean, there was no other, fancy story behind it.
That's very interesting because like it shows that you need a challenge and that you are looking for challenges based on what you just explained.
Absolutely. So, I mean, for me, I think I love the process of learning new things. It doesn't mean that it'll stick in my brain for a very long time and I will remember everything. Mm-hmm. But life is just one shot, so you have to use all the opportunities to learn new things.
Exactly.
Right? So that's how I got into aerospace. And then after getting into aerospace, I was fortunate enough to have really good, colleagues there, where I learned a bit more of coding, a bit more of electronics, a bit more about what you can achieve in life, right?
Yep.
And so that's my journey there. And when I was in my third year of my university, I got selected in a campus placement. So there's a companies coming to campus and picking,
they only pick the top tier students, right? I mean, you need to mention that as well.
kind of. So they picked four out of many. And that's how I got into the aerospace industry as such. So it was a startup based in Bangalore where they were working on different engineering problems linked to aerospace. Okay. And I worked in different fields like design of aircraft structures and analysis of aircraft structures. But then even there, I was not so much focused on the aerospace aspect of it, but then I was so fascinated about the entire concept of company building. So I was jumping into different things about recruitment or finance or business. So anywhere I could say I could get an opportunity, I was just jumping on. Right.
Okay.
And so I mean the reason why I'm saying this is that I'm not a specialist. So I'm a generalist trying to learn different aspects of things.
But would you say that you try to specialize in a certain subject that you put your mind to and dig deeper? And because
so I mean I think one of the foundations that I had is about how to learn. Right, so I think that's a very important skill set.
Exactly.
Right? Once you have the basics of different things like, for example, physics, chemistry, and other things, right, or basics of engineering, basics of coding, you can build on top of that. Right. Yep. So at different phases of life, what happened is that maybe I would pick a certain topic. For example, many years ago, I started a company that was focusing on artists. Right. So then I started diving deeper into art and the field of general arts, right? And for example, at Kite, I wanted to build my own software, right?
I remember you coded Kite.
Yeah.
I think it was like in 2 weeks or something. Yeah. I remember you told me, I was like, hey, I just coded Kite in 2 weeks. I was like, what?
So, I mean, if I have to dive deeper and build something with a goal, I can build that purely, it's not that, I'm like super good in coding and I could build that. I know how to do Google search and, find the right resources
Yeah.
and then start building.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the base of what I am today, it's based on the fact that I learned to learn new skills.
That's a nice way of putting it. So how did you ultimately end up in Belgium, and then end up in mobility? Did you first do like the corporate route, like most people, or?
So it was this aerospace company that that I was part of, and then I moved on to another aerospace startup as well, based in Bangalore, where we grew the company from just 3 or 4 people to 30 when I exited.
Yep.
And so these two were startups, right? Startup scale-ups. And I also had this company called Rhapsody, which was into helping artists. So it was a startup as well. But I felt that what I lacked was probably a corporate exposure where you get exposed to processes and all that. And I joined a French engineering company. I worked in India for a couple of years for that engineering firm, and there was an opportunity to move to Europe. And I said yes. Did not know what the challenge was, but then I said yes, and came to Belgium, and was very challenging for me. But then I managed to survive within the corporate, trying to build new business models within the company, and that was my corporate stint. I still feel that I probably overstayed. I should have jumped into starting business much earlier. But then it also gave me sufficient time for me to think about what ventures that I want to create and also shape myself a little bit, in terms of learning how a company should be run.
Exactly. I think with my own personal experience, it was good for me to first work at Uber for a year, because you learn things like being structured, things that you, as a startup founder, first time startup founder, things that you might not know, and those are the mistakes that you can learn from the corporate.
Absolutely. I think startups are good, and you learn a specific skill set from startups, but then a corporate exposure gives you much more and much more meaning. Exactly. I mean, when you scale up the company, you have to get to a stage where you bring some structure and process in place, which if you have a corporate exposure where it's super process oriented, you could borrow a couple of things that could be useful when you scale up.
Exactly.